Hey y'all, welcome to episode 2, season 3, Tea Time with Tasha. Y'all vibing with me? Art of Noise is like probably one of my favorite instrumentals of all time. To be honest with you, I fell in love with it when I was in elementary school. Believe it or not, I've always had an old soul. But I want to thank you all for coming and joining me for episode 2. And we are going to vibe. The first episode, we took care of some household business. So I just introduced myself to the new YouTubers and kind of became familiar again with my return listeners. And today's episode, like no other, is going to be fun. It's a little bit more chill, and it's controversial in a lot of ways, controversial. So what we're talking about today is courting. And today's episode, just to be quite specific, is, do men believe in courting anymore? Let's chat. Women, this is going to be an episode for us all. So let's just get into some things. Now, obviously, like I told you all, I like to put some definitions on things before we start. So what is courting? Let's define it. Courting is to have a romantic relationship with someone that you hope to marry. They courted for 2 years before getting married, as an example. Dating, however, on the contrary, is to go out with someone in whom one may be romantically or sexually interested in. It's very casual. It's not too much on it, and it's different types of dating, but we're going to keep it pretty surface for this conversation and just break it down. So I know y'all probably wondering, like, why the hell did she choose this topic? Well, I think argumentatively, a lot of people, we're going to take a sip of this tea. Check my little cup out, y'all. So we're going to take this topic to the next level because I think argumentatively, a lot of people can say the dating scene can sometimes be seen as trash. Now, I'm going to sip my tea on that one because for real, doing some legwork, it does seem that way, but we have to define why, because the dating scene is comprised of people, and the people on the dating scene is what makes it trash or makes it successful. So let's just talk about it. I'd like to think that the standards of women a lot of the times have everything to do with what's accepted or what's tolerated, and sometimes the lesser or the latter, just depending on who the audience is, right? And a lot of the times I say that because we set the tone for how men approach us and for how they interact with us, right? So if we're presenting ourselves as the queens that we should be, you see the queen above my head. Hello. So if we present ourselves as such, then we should be treated as such, right? One would think so. But I'd like to believe that because of how folks were raised and even their level of growth in their different journeys throughout life, that can have everything to do with what they present themselves as in a relationship. And when I say relationship, I'm not even talking about an intimate relationship, just in relationships in general. So when you look at a woman that has standards, right? So when I say standards, she requires to be courted because she's dating with a purpose. So she needs someone that will subscribe to taking her out on not casual dates, but intentional dates, meaning where they can converse, where there's meaningful dialogue, and let's talk about this for a second. Let me interject this. Guys, women, the whole what's your favorite color, what's your favorite movie, those sorts of things are fine when you have already established the real meat and potatoes behind who you are, what you represent, and what your expectations are, right? So when we get to, I'm going to say 25 and over, we should be looking at a little different type of topics that we're having with one another. All of that colors and stuff, that stuff is okay, but we need to be knowing, look, what do you do in your free time? How do you spend your free time? Who do you spend most of your time with? Where do you work? Do you have a career? Do you have your own place? And it's not in the sense of trying to be a gold digger or expecting anything from someone that you can't already provide for yourself. It's just making sure that we both individually are equally aligned and have our own things going on. Because I hate the thing or the notion that women are seeing that they want men to have all these things, but they don't align with the things they expect in a man, and vice versa. If you want someone to have a job, you need to have a job. If you want someone to have a vehicle, you need to have a vehicle. If you want someone to be able to afford going out on dates and trips, you should be able to do the same. I believe in reciprocity in relationships, and I also believe in this phrase that's in the Bible called evenly yoked. When you are dealing with someone or getting to know someone, you need to make sure that enough of the boxes that need to be checked off on either end are aligned. And when I say that, that just simply means you all need to vibrate on a similar frequency. That means paying attention to red flags. I talked about this earlier today on my TikTok in a little snippet where there are certain red flags that people need to be aware of when they are dating or courting or whatever the case may be. And that is whether the person is emotionally available. What that looks like, just for an example, is a person in tune with their emotions? Can they articulate to you how they feel, why they feel the way they do? Can they receive how you feel, why you feel the way you do? And can you all have reciprocity and dialogue to unpack those things? Are they comfortable and secure in having those sorts of conversations? It also looks like, is the person someone that can have mature dialogue? Or do they freeze up and don't have anything to contribute to the conversation beyond just listening but not hearing you? Not listening and hearing at the same time. And let's be honest, there's a difference between the two. You can listen to someone and be vested in what they're saying and the meaning behind the message, and you can just hear them, meaning hear their flux, hear their voice, hear sounds, but not invested in what's being said to you. All of those things comprise dating. It comprises courting. These are very minimal things that we should be in tune with when we are interacting with people and looking at potential candidates that we might want to cultivate a relationship with. Right or wrong. I don't know how many of you all can agree or attest to this, but I know that's how I feel at 36 years young. Yes, 36 years young. And then I also just wanted to look at and just focus on low vibrational interactions and bare minimum. Listen, guys, whether it's a man or a woman, because I don't like to make my comments specific to either one or individual, they are collective. Because when you're dating, it's a collective thing, whether you're heterosexual, homosexual, whatever the case may be. We need to make sure that we are not accepting bare minimum treatment, right? Which means whatever we're willing to do for someone or however we're willing to extend ourselves to be available for someone, we should expect that same thing in return. Actions, my loves, speak louder than words. We need to stop, some of us, operating in the mindset that if someone says something that sounds good or something that is appealing, that's what we subscribe to and we give people the benefit of doubt. No, my loves, life doesn't work that way nowadays. You have to go off of solely what you see someone do. Actions is what shows you everything you need to know about a person. Actions show you how serious or lack thereof someone is about what it is that you both are cultivating. And being on the same page means you guys have to have open dialogue, open communication. That is so important and I feel like integral in relationships these days, because when you don't operate in a space of making sure that you all are communicating on one accord, the message can be lost, bare minimum treatment can come up, and breadcrumbing. I talked about that before on my TikTok page also. Breadcrumbing just looks like someone giving you just a little bit of something just to keep you coming back, just to keep you at bay or stationary so that they can gain something from you, right? But breadcrumbing is a one-sided ordeal. It's not reciprocity when someone breadcrumbs you. So if you want an example, let's just say you meet a woman, or for women, you meet a man, right? And you all are talking or getting to know one another and in the process of just casually dating, right? Meaning hang out, nothing serious, no titles in place or anything like that. And then you all are moving forward in this intimate connection, whatever it looks like, whether it's physical or whether it's a verbal, physical, whatever that looks like for you, right? And you realize that you're always reaching out. You're always sacrificing time. You're always making suggestions for you all to do things collectively together. But the other person is not always giving you definitive answers. It seems like they're tabling you or they're putting you on a wait list for getting and having access to their time. They're not giving you direct responses on whatever suggestions it is that you're making, that they're on one accord or that they're aligned with what it is that you want to do, and that you all can move in the same space and have the same ideas. What it looks like is you're doing all the suggestions, you're coming up with all the plans, and they're just benching you, almost like how you do in a basketball game. They're putting you on a bench, they're making you wait, they're being inconsistent, and they're not giving you anything real to cultivate a relationship or a connection to them, because it's just like, there may be other options, or maybe this person isn't emotionally available. Like I talked about earlier, maybe they're closed off and maybe they don't know how to communicate because they weren't shown. A lot of the times we have to understand people can't give you something that they've never been taught or shown. A lot of the way that we become in life is what we learn or what we're taught as we're children, and what we grow into is the principles or lack thereof that we carry throughout life. Now, I don't subscribe to the notion that just because someone wasn't taught something doesn't mean along the way they can't be mature enough to learn. That's a decision that you make. That's a choice that you have. That's up to you if that's something that you want to do. But at the end of the day, when you're moving forward with someone, breadcrumbing is a red flag in itself. When you feel like you're doing more than the other person, at some point you have to take inventory on the quality of that relationship, and if you even feel like you're gaining anything from it. If you don't feel like the relationship or friendship or whatever ship you're on is serving you in a positive way, then my loves, what are you doing? It seems like you need to take inventory on maybe your thought process, and maybe there are some things within you that you need to course correct so that you can date in a healthy and meaningful way. We are not always going to have everything figured out all the time, but when we notice that we're falling into a rut or a pit with the same people or the same kinds of interactions, we have to turn the dial back to self. What about us is impartial or broken or needs a little bit more fine-tuning or healing so that we have a healthy insight to the type of person that we should be interacting with on a very consistent basis? Consistency is everything in any relationship that you're in. And if you don't have consistency, then my loves, what do you have? You have to understand that you are worthy. You are worth more than breadcrumbing. You are worth more than bare minimum treatment. You are worth more than low vibrational interactions. And once you start believing that and affirming yourself with that, you are able to cultivate real relationships, real connections. And that moves me into my next topic, celibacy, right? So when we look at, the concept or the mindset that, oh, we're grown, so no one really looks at the fact that, or some people, I'm going to say some people don't really subscribe to the notion of, we just met, so intercourse is not something that's going to happen. There's a 90-day rule, whatever the case may be. Everyone doesn't operate from that mindset or that space, right? But I challenge you, think about it this way. Not necessarily putting a time limit on it, but just making sure that you're that in tune with a meaningful interaction that you don't allow intercourse to be the guide or the lead in your interactions with people. Maybe sometimes pulling back from the physical and focusing on only getting to know someone mentally, only focusing on getting to know someone spiritually, and only focusing on getting to know someone so that you all are on one accord, moving to a place where you understand what your values, your core values are, and what that looks like in your forward movement and your growth in life. When we start focusing on those sorts of interactions and taking away the physical aspects of things, it removes clouded judgment, right? Because sometimes, especially us women, because we are very emotionally led, we sometimes get into this place where once physical happens, people like to use the term, and we're all grown, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. Children are not subscribed to my channel. You become dickmatized or pee-whipped for guys. And when you start having that be the lead in how you interact with the opposite sex, you have clouded judgment. Breadcrumbing possibly could happen. You might be connected to a narcissist. Let's talk about that, which is for a later episode. Or you might be dealing with someone that's low vibrational or just downright toxic. You don't have the best foresight when you lead an interaction physically. It's best to lead interactions with getting to know someone's mindset, getting to know if you all are aligned spiritually or not, getting to understand if the way that you interact with a person is going to help you grow in the relationship, and being able to heal through some things, because let's just be honest, that's another thing that I wanted to highlight. Not all of us enter relationships where we're completely all together. Some of us are still healing and growing from some mended, broken hearts. Some of us are still healing through generational curses that we're trying to break the chains of. Some of us are still trying to heal through wounded childhood traumas. There are a numerous amount of things that play into how we present ourselves in relationships. What I like to say that argumentatively, you need to sometimes take time out for self, like I talked about in the previous episode, and learning what makes you tick. Learning to be okay in solitude. Learning that it's okay to be alone. Not being codependent on a relationship. Because when we become codependent on our connections to other people, we sometimes lose sight of self. We don't know what makes us happy. We don't know what makes us thrive. We don't know what makes us move forward in life. And we don't pour enough into self to know what is an aligned companion. And when you don't have a good sense of self, sometimes you misjudge, misstep, or misconstrue the helpmate that you're trying to move into a relationship with. Sometimes you are impartial with that person, and sometimes you end up with the completely wrong person. I don't know if you all have ever heard of twin flames or soul ties. Sometimes those aren't good things. Sometimes those are very detrimental to your health, and you can't even function because you've created this connection to someone that is low vibrational, not aligned with you in any positive way, and now you have to heal through and try to disconnect and regroup, reassess, and heal through that connection. When we take time out for ourselves and focus on what makes us thrive, what makes us happy, and what makes us grow in this life, then we can, in a healthy way, cultivate something with someone that's meaningful and not someone that's meaningless. You know what I'm saying? So that was definitely something that I wanted to highlight. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the fact that when you present yourself to someone in this life, authenticity and being organic is probably the best way that you can be to create a meaningful and real connection with someone. A lot of the times I like to believe that we live in a shape-shifting, chameleon kind of society where there's a lot of fakery that kind of happens around us. Meaning people just kind of subscribe to whatever the trend is, whatever the end thing is, because they feel like that's the right thing to do because everyone else is doing it. And I think that we lose sight of having individual mindsets, setting ourselves apart from the rest, understanding that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be set apart. If you're into the word, like I said, if you're not, I will teach you. Follow me on this journey. You can be set apart because God chooses the ones that he wants to be vessels and beacons of light to carry out his messages to others, to bring others to him, for us to be stewards of each other and for us to grow in spirituality and in our faith. And when you take the time out to set yourself and allow yourself to be set apart from the rest, you learn yourself. You genuinely learn what makes you thrive, what makes you tick, what makes you move in a space genuinely of authenticity. It's easy to say that you're a real person and that you subscribe to realness. And it's a whole other thing to actually be that, to move in that, to show that through all that you do and all that you say. I like to believe and I'd like to understand that what God is doing with me in this life right now in the journey that I'm currently in, that I operate from a very organic space. When you're organic and you're authentic, you're relatable. When you're relatable, people are more open to subscribe to what it is that you do and what it is that you represent because they understand that you're coming from a meaningful place, something that they can pull from, something that they can learn to grow from. And my loves, understand that the only thing that we should be doing in this life is elevating and growing and thriving and becoming in an abundant growth mindset place where we can look back on our past self and say, you know what? Even though that person may have dwelled in the space that they dwelled in, they had to exist so that I can exist, so that I can build, so that I can show people that they are more than capable and able to do the same. All you have to do is have faith. Mustard seed faith is what I focus on a lot because we don't always start off with an abundance of faith. Faith is meaning that you have to believe in something that you can't see. something that can't be quantifiable, something that sometimes you can't roadmap or blueprint. But as long as you have faith in God and faith in yourself that you are able to do something great in this life and be something amazing and abundant in this life, then you can do that. Affirmation is everything. You are what you say you are what you believe. You have to understand that the only way in this life that you can truly build a relationship is if you build the first relationship with self. You can't be anything more for anyone else than you are for yourself first. And as long as we understand and start operating in the space of that, I think we can all grow in a meaningful way where courting will be a meaningful thing that moves us into the space of marriage. Because yes, God does want us to get married in this life. But what we have to understand is we have to learn what and who we are in this life first so that we can receive in our wholeness and in the other person's wholeness, being our possible helpmate who God has designed and ordained for us, we can receive them because we're whole. I always say, two individual people that are whole themselves make a partnership. Two half people don't make wholes. You have to come to the relationship completely your whole self or more in a healed place than in an impartial place so that you can receive someone there. A lot of the times we miss and block our blessings because we're not ready to receive them. We wonder why God hasn't given us the thing that we want so badly, the person that we want so badly, and it's because it's still work that we have to do internally. Once you focus on doing that internal work, courting and dating can be meaningful, purposeful, rooted in spirituality, not only rooted in physical. Physical will just be the bonus at that point. Once you relieve that once you embark upon that heightened level of enlightenment, then dating and courting is easy because you have a strong sense of self. You know what your principles are. You align with your morals and you don't deviate from them. You don't duck and dodge and ignore red flags. You accept them for what they are and you move accordingly. It's okay to realize that some people just aren't for us. That doesn't make them a bad person and it doesn't make us better than. We just identify that's not what God had for us or who God had for us. And we're willing to be patient. That's the key, being patient to wait. Because once you are patient in your waiting season, harvest season is right among the horizon. And I'm telling you, when God blesses you, take my example, your life becomes a testimony because people see your movement, they see your growth, and they see how God blessed you. But you also have a story that they can too grow from because they understand if she can do it, if he can do it, I can do it. Loves, understand and know. Don't ever deviate from the understanding and knowledge of. You are what you say you are, what you believe you are. God created you in his image, in his likeness. We are all uniquely and wonderfully made in his image. We just have to believe and understand that. So my loves, that will conclude episode 2, season 3. Thank you for joining Tea Time with Tosh. Cheers. Talk to you guys soon. I'm out.